Find rest, find peace, find joy. You're here with me. Blue sky, just breathe. Starry night, yeah, know you're free.
Every night our team gets together, and it's always a part that we all look forward to. We have our devotions, then we sing, we talk about the best part of our day, and everybody just shares what great thing happened during that day.
So during the devotion that night, we were singing a song, our first night together, and we decided to sing Raise a Hallelujah, and one of the phrases is, I'm going to sing in the middle of the storm, which is very appropriate as we left the Mac house in the middle of a storm.
To finish that and then to all of a sudden be thrust into this scene of just madness and chaos and fear.
Ava shows up and she just said, we need 2 to 3 people to come to the school.
And so it ended up just being Courtney, our host, and then their daughter Ava, and then me, Kristen, and Caitlin. I think there were maybe a couple others that were getting ready to go, and they went up to change, and by then we were gone because there was an urgency to it, like I said.
What we were told we'd be doing is just trying to get out stuff to keep it from being destroyed in the flood. So we'd put stuff up as high as we could in the classrooms and the cabinets that are usually most of the time empty, and then putting down sandbags at the gate to kind of keep the floodwaters from coming in. There was nowhere to park because people were trying to get all their cars and as much as they could, and their mopeds and motorcycles, all of that out of the streets because the waters in the river were already starting to rise. And they knew they were in danger, so they were just trying to get out of there to higher ground.
When we arrived at the school at Makarios, you have to go down into the parking lot, and we could see standing water. So Courtney just started walking through the water, and we stood at the edge, and I just looked at both of them. I'm like, we can stay or we can go. Do you want to go in? And they both said yes, so we started wading through the water. It was probably knee deep.
By the time we got across, it was up probably mid-thigh.
And I thought, oh, my shoes aren't just gonna get a little wet, like we're just in it. And so, I tried to pull up my shorts just a little bit, and I thought maybe I'll keep my shorts dry.
So we decided to get in the water, and we crossed across to here, and we could still see the sidewalk. So we were able to get up on the sidewalk, and we started cleaning out these classrooms, which was just a couple boxes, and we would take them upstairs, and we were trying to put everything on the tables.
And then we get in the classrooms, and they're already full of water. It's up, to our legs, and we're trying to figure out what to get. I don't know what to get, but everybody's hurrying, and so there's only me and maybe one other person in a given classroom, and we're just putting anything that seems valuable up on tables, but suddenly the water is rising so fast that the tables start floating, and so the things you put on tables are just, you could almost watch it coming up.
Then we were trying to move things into the cabinets. Well, the cabinets weren't actually empty, and so Courtney's just like, take anything electronic you can see and try to get it upstairs. Try to get it to the 2nd floor.
And so everybody just started standing and just didn't know what to grab. I know Caitlin grabbed a couple computers, Ryan grabbed a monitor, I took a box up, and then we just looked around and said, we gotta go. So by the time, within 10 minutes or less.
As we were going up the stairs, it was already starting, it was already up to the 4th step, and by the time we came back down, it was the 6th or 7th step.
I started to get a little scared just because it was coming fast.
And at one point, it felt like, I think I was the last one in this one room, and it felt like suddenly the water was rushing in fast, and I just had this thought, okay, this is no longer saving stuff, we need to get out of here. And I wonder if others had kind of a similar thought at the same time. So I tried to get out of the room, but there's a table just floating at me, and so you're dodging those things, and it's at this point getting a little this is new for me and I didn't know what to make of it. I was just kind of doing what I was told, but I grabbed one more piece of equipment and took it up these stairs, and by then everybody had started to cross back over, and so I'm coming down the stairs and I'm seeing the people I came with out ahead of me, and I realized it had not been 10 minutes, and the water that was just over my knees less than 10 minutes ago was now up to my neck, and we knew we had to cross. All those thoughts of trying to stay dry and keep my clothes dry, I thought, well, now I need to stay alive.
So we came back to this corner, and I said, are you guys ready? And we just jumped in. We couldn't touch. We swam across.
There were places we couldn't touch.
Kind of bobbed.
Yeah, it was kind of bobbing.
But it was over our head.
It was uneven ground, so yeah.
Yeah, so we swam back across, and we got up to that hill over there.
And when Kristen first told me that we were gonna have to swim at some point, and that the thing that kept rushing through my head was that my parents always told me when North Fork of Paint Creek flooded, not to go anywhere near it if you could see a current. And I could definitely see and feel the current as that was going on. I'm like, but this is survival mode. This is fight or flight, and I want to get out of this.
So I didn't realize it, but the girls had to swim. Literally, they couldn't touch. I could still just touch and kind of keep my my arms above my head a little bit. And so we're crossing over, and there's a few people up at the street level. And so we get across and come out, and by then it's just sort of the gravity of it all is hitting you, and you're watching the water keep coming up like this driveway up towards the street.
As soon as we crossed, we heard something that sounded like loud lightning, like crashing near us, because lightning was all around us. And we later found out it was this wall collapsing. As soon as we got across, it was just the sound of it.
And then right where we were walking across, all of a sudden this water comes just pouring in, and you realize had we lingered for just a few more minutes, this could have been really bad.
And then we just stood there at the gate for a little bit, just watching the water rise and rise and rise. And then it finally gets to like close to level with the bottom of the gate, and we're like, we need to go find the car. We need to get out of here. We need to get to higher ground because it's still rising. The water is still downpouring, like buckets and buckets at a time.
But now at this point, the whole neighborhood is out and people are in the streets, and it's just chaos. And all of a sudden, a woman comes sprinting down from one direction, and I don't know what she's saying, but Courtney breaks down crying, and she says she can't find her children. Of course, they know all these people. I mean, this is a neighborhood they work in all the time. And so a woman could not find her children, and she's running. And so people are crying. We're not sure what to do. Everybody's just, I think Courtney was trying to assess and figure out, what do we do next, and who can we help? And her heart's going out for the people.
I know it rose 11 foot total, but I think in a matter of 20 minutes, it rose like 3 or 4 feet, and it just came so fast. And that's when it hit me, like the school was just gonna be completely flooded. It's gonna be completely underwater, and I knew that our mission right there was gonna be different this week.
And so all this is going on, and meanwhile, it suddenly becomes obvious that we have to get out of there. Like, it's not just staying in the low areas, it's starting to hit the street.
We knew we had to get back to Courtney's van, so Ryan Van Arsdalen backed up his car, and we just I grabbed Caitlin's arm and just held it. We followed Ryan's car out of the, through the streets. Lots of people were in the streets, lots of people were screaming, frantic, and we noticed that the water started to now come up into the streets. So what I thought was the worst part over.
And so it's dark, everybody's sort of screaming in the streets, and motorcycles are going by, and people are just trying to get out of the way. We didn't see the van moving, and by then the waters had risen up to street level, and it was up to where you'd get into the van. And we thought, there's no way that van's moving. And at that point, we're going, well, I don't know how we're getting out of here.
And the water came up to the van, and she was able to get out of the street, and we all jumped in, and by that time the street we were on was just completely covered with water. And I just started praying and just saying, you know, Lord, get this car safely, be with the people in the city. You just don't know what to do because your whole body is just in shock.
We kept trying to go to higher ground, and we'd come to a point where there was already water rushing across the road as we were trying to get higher and higher. And we got to the highest point, and we're in like a traffic jam, and it turns out there are, like, I don't know if they're law enforcement or firefighters, but they had some sort of lights. They were telling us that we couldn't go any further that way.
Every which way we tried to get to higher ground was blocked off, and you couldn't go, and so we had to just go straight. And we're just watching water, you know, come across like a river, and we're just praying out loud in the car, because this is probably for me the first time that I thought, okay, like our lives are in danger, and we could get swept over, or we could get stalled out and then be stuck walking through all this, and it was pretty scary.
We were able to get down a main street. The road was a complete river, and I was picturing the van stalling at this point. I was picturing it rising so much, but I knew that God got her van out in time. I knew that God got us to the main highway, which was flooded by that time as well. And she just turned off the street, went up on a hill, and we just parked the car.
We turned the van off, and suddenly it's pitch black, and we realized we were the only lights in the whole neighborhood, which was really jarring, given everything that was going on, to now be sitting in pitch black, and at least for me, in a place that you just don't understand where you are or anything. And so we turned the van back on, and we finally were able to reach the Mac house where our team was staying, and we're able to figure some things out. But I then began to think the way things were going was, oh, we're stuck here all night. A couple of different times, Ava, their daughter, who was so great through this stuff, you know, went and checked, because she knew where we were, and she went down and looked and could see pathways that may be accessible. She said that there was a way. We had to leave the van, but we could walk, and as it turned out, where we were now was just a 10-minute walk to the Mac house to get back to where we were, or where we'd come from, and that was great news to me.
And this was just like in between houses and down like little trails, you know, not real roads or anything. And these pathways were like littered with glass and lined with barbed wire fences, and so we had to be really careful to watch where we stepped.
And we had no lights but these cell phones, so there's one in front and one behind, and we're just trying not to slip and fall and get injured. And we made it, and finally make it down to the street and somehow back closer to where our team was.
And we finally made it back to the Mac house, and everyone was just so relieved.
And we get back, and just as much as we could, we tried to not get our teammates filthy, but as much as we could hug them, we did. And you know, at that point, I broke down, and I think all of us did, because you just, I think when you're trying to live, you don't think much about it, but when you get to a place of safety, you just realize, like, you know, a couple more minutes in the school, and it could have been swept away, or not had been able to get across, or you know, a few more minutes in the streets, and the van could have been pushed off the street. I mean, just anything, you know, and all that stuff kind of hits you.
I keep coming back to it, and I'm just like, there's no way I was a part of this. This kind of thing doesn't happen to me. It happens to other people.
And it all happened so fast, but I know that the people are safe. The people, the one woman who lost her children, they found them. There were 3 people missing, and all 3 were found. I know that the school is going to be okay.
I mean, we had a plan, and we had kind of known what the plan was for several days before we got here. And then the next day, we all realized what that flood had caused, and just the disaster, and some people lost everything, and mud everywhere.
I have never seen such devastation. Everything was lost. We were walking through the streets to get to this school, and people's homes, all of their possessions were out into the street, just completely ruined. Just such a disaster.
This right here was a home, completely destroyed by this flood, collapsed, everything lost.
Such disaster I've never seen before in real time. I've seen it on TV. I've seen destruction like that from like hurricanes and flooding in parts of even America, but nothing quite what I saw when I came here. I feel the Lord really made it clear to us what we needed to do when we came. It couldn't have been organized or orchestrated any better than what He did. My first impression, the morning we went over on Sunday morning, was just tearful. It just was hard to describe.
When we got to the school that we were supposed to be helping kids with and helping to teach and just being with the kids, it was just overwhelming. There was mud everywhere.
Disheartened and devastated when I saw the school when I first walked into it. There was so much destruction.
For me and my family, we got the opportunity to go to the home of one of the school employees, and we helped them.
And I remember walking up to the house, and they were pushing mud and water out of their house. I mean, it was covering the floors, their furniture, and they were there with smiles on their face. They had other friends that were there helping them, and I think it was such a neat experience to see God work through that way of how the flood affected this family and how we got to be a part as a family, myself, Timmy, and Judah.
We cleaned it up already, and then there was another flood, and I was sad that we didn't get to finish help because it was just so sad.
Felt good in a way because we were helping them, but shocked because this family, that this had never happened to them in their many years of living there. It had never happened to them, and now all of a sudden their whole home is flooded, and we felt bad that they had to experience that, but they had a different attitude, and they said, you know, it's material. Everything can be replaced. The good thing is that we are alive, and that is the most important.
I made it to the corner, finally, after 2.5 hours. We made it to the corner. We came back on Wednesday to start working, and the staff was in there singing praises to God. So from what looked like complete devastation, we wouldn't be able to get it cleaned, we went in and saw just people worshiping in the middle of the cleanup, and that was a huge blessing to me. We've been working tirelessly this week to help them just to open it. But I think what I'm learning about this community, which we've come down for several years now, that this community comes together. I've been so impressed with our Brookside team and how we are not afraid to just jump in inches of mud and support this school, because they are sharing Jesus. They are sharing meals every day with the kids. They're sharing, they get to brush their teeth, they get to take vitamins. So every day they're not at school, they do not get these essential items.
The resilience of the people showed up. I feel like we were a very small part of that, because these people are going to be doing this for time to come. They brought joy to us. I think of James 1:1-4. I feel like that is them, that they considered it pure joy, even though they were going through trials. They lost everything, and yet they had joy.
Looking around here and seeing all that these people have lost, and they continue to be joyful, and they're happy, and they're singing, and they're praising the Lord in the midst of all of the devastation, and how they're just content with what they have.
I think my favorite part of this week was being able to be part of God's plan and God's timing. We had plans coming into this week. We had a grand idea of all the things we were going to do. We had almost everything planned down to the minute. And then the flood came. It changed everything. But God knew the second that we signed up for this trip. He knew long before that there wasn't even an idea that our church would go on this trip. He knew. And to be part of something that God ordained, to be part of something that God planned, it's
There's been so much beauty this week in the mud. And not just because things got cleaned, but just the serving and the stories and the talking and the sharing and the togetherness and the camaraderie and the desire to see people serve others more than themselves within the community, in the country in general, amongst you all. It's just been a beautiful thing. I thank you for your graciousness. Ryan and I were giggling, I don't think we've ever known a time that a team's made themselves dinner in the DR. So thank you for doing that. You guys showed up in such a huge way, that I'm still gonna need a few weeks to process out. I'm looking forward to sending you some beautiful pictures of campus soon, with less mud and much more gravel, clean spaces, and kids in classrooms laughing. Please come back and see those kids laughing in their classrooms. Because it's a joy, it is.
To tell of all you've done, of how you changed my life and wiped away